So I've been getting lots of questions about tirzepatide or semaglutide or retatrutide, like in long-term use. So this conversation has a couple different points on it. One, when we talk about using normal dosages for long periods of time, I don't really recommend that. I think that's a bad idea. There's lots and lots of reasons why when you're working with the body, you can push it real hard in short dosages. So if you're like, hey, I'm going to run, for 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months, a decent load of tirzepatide or semaglutide, while I'm maintaining my testosterone and while I'm maintaining my, nutrient intake and working out and all the things, but we're going to use the GLP-1 as a booster, if you will, to help, promote metabolic change. Fantastic. Awesome. Do it. We use it all the time. It's a fantastic option. When we start looking at using it long-term in a way where like, okay, we want to use this for a long time. We want to use it for beneficial. Let's say you're 30 and you're microdosing it. We don't have any long-term longitudinal studies on what it's going to do to you. My worry is that it would downregulate the functionality of your body and you become dependent upon it to a degree. Like think like testosterone. I realize the peptides and steroids are not anywhere remotely close, but think of it that way. Whenever you replace or you force the body into a different position, or you use something else, the body will end up becoming dependent upon it and quit doing the things it does on its own. So that is one of the worries I have. I'm not saying that's going to happen. That's one of the worries I have. The other thing that I see with human nature is what'll end up happening is you'll start using this thing. You'll start seeing the weight come down because most people are using this in a weight-based system, which is, again, I always talk about how you should never use weight as your as your metric of health or metric of anything. Weight is way too non-specific. Is it fat, muscle, bone, inflammatory weight, other water weight? Like what are you losing? What are you gaining? What are you losing with weight? You have no idea. It's not specific enough to really kind of put into any functionality. But here's the thing we get into. If people are using, and this is where most people are, most people are using the scale to tell them if they're where they want to be. They'll get on the scale, they'll start losing weight, and they'll be like, oh, okay, that's great. Then it starts influencing the choices that they start to make. Well, I can have a little bit extra dessert. I can have a little bit extra this. I can have a little extra that because I'm losing weight. I'm moving in the right direction. I'm taking tirzepatide. I'm taking whatever, right? And what ends up happening is that they start to alter their actual macronutrient intake, and that can create problems long term. So that's the other issue I see with it. The other thing is that it is a mask for improper metabolic health. So we're not eating the right stuff. We're not sleeping the right amount. We're not exercising the right amount. Like we're not doing the things that we know we're supposed to be doing. And we're taking this as a Band-Aid or something else long-term. And I think that's going to lead to more problems than it's worth. Now, let's say you're a little bit older. Let's say you're in your 60s. And I don't think 60s is old. The closer I get, the less old it looks. But let's say you're 60 or 65, somewhere in there. And you've had issues with metabolic function. You've had issues with insulin resistance. You've had issues like here and there. Maybe you've been diabetic. Maybe you're not quite diabetic, but you're kind of like borderline, like your fasting insulin's like 10, 11, 12, maybe even up to 15. And you've had issues with maintaining the proper amount of fat that's on your body, maybe some energy issues, things like that. I don't think it's a bad idea because a lot of people who are in their 60s right now lived through all of the lies the medical system told us about, one, everything's based on calories, that two, you need no fat, like, oh, you can't have fat. Fat will kill you. Cholesterol will kill you. Eggs are the worst. Steak is terrible. Red meat's the worst thing to eat. They lived through all of that. So they did everything they were told they were supposed to do, and they were good at it, right? They ate the high carbs. They ate the low fat. They ran as much as they could. They didn't lift weights. They didn't take testosterone. They did all the things that, if you're 60 right now, these are the things that you were told to do and not to do by the medical system, right? And so, hell, you're even told, take opioids. They're not addicted to you. Like this is the age range we're talking about with this. So they've been metabolically broken for a long, long time. And I think regulating the system in a microdose function is a really great idea. I think it's one of those things where, you look at it like, well, we should bring things back to natural. 100% agree. Don't agree with that comment in any way, shape, or form. The problem we're going to get into is that they've been broken for a very long time. And trying to reel them back in naturally is going to be difficult. And a lot of them are not going to be able to do it because it's going to require a giant change in their lifestyle. It's going to require the body to basically backtrack 20 years. I don't think that it's going to be something that the normal person is going to be able to do. So I do think that a microdose of tirzepatide, or if you want to use semaglutide, whatever, rituritide, like they're a little bit different in how they function, but it is what it is. I think it'd be beneficial. Now, I think that you should also add in the testosterone. I think you should add in all the supplementation, like obviously kill all the parasites, like all those things. 100% you should do all those things. But I think that, a low grade microdose to maintain basically glucagon functionality and GLP-1 activation is a good idea for some of those guys. As we get more information, that opinion might change. But with the stuff we have now, the information we have now, I think that's a pretty solid plan. Every dose is going to be dependent upon the person. This is one of those big things with GLPs that I find very interesting. And with everything has a dose function in it. It's funny, people are like, because I have the cannabis strips, and people are like, oh, they're just getting into it. And they're like, I have 150-pound girls be like, well, how much do you take? Because that'll tell me how much I'm supposed to take. And I'm like, I'm a 250-pound, 260-pound man who has I have more muscle mass than you weigh. So like your entire body, I have more muscle mass than your entire body. And I've been doing this for a while. So what I use and what you use is obviously radically going to be different. Same thing with GLP-1s. I have people who like semaglutide as an example. It's more powerful, so you have to be a little bit more careful with the milligram dosage of it. I have people who are taking 5-6 milligrams a week. And I have people that have shut down system issues at 1.5 or 2 milligrams a week. So there's a wide range in this, and so dialing it in individually is really important. And so like there's ways that we do that, but finding that dosage point and doing a very low microdose function would be beneficial. And I wouldn't necessarily judge that on weight loss, and again, because of all the reasons I have for irritation with weight loss issues. There are some people that and especially in the 60-year-old range, especially with women, I would tell you that they need to be gaining total weight. Well, let me put it this way: they need to be swapping fat for muscle. So a lot of my 60-year-old patients who are women, or 60 or above patients who are women, we get their testosterone levels back up, we get their nutrition levels back up, we get them on a GLP-1 to regulate everything, and then they're lifting. And so what I really want to see is a swap. I want to see a couple pounds of fat loss for a couple pounds of muscle gain. So again, I want to see roughly 0 weight loss, but we're really trying to get body composition to change, which is the healthiest way to go. So again, it's one of the issues I have with weight as your metric. But overall, if you're 30, man, I would really focus on getting your hormones where they're supposed to be, getting your supplementation, your D3, your testosterone. If you're a woman, make sure your estrogen's where it's supposed to be, and then doing something for movement. You've got to move. And I get it. There's a lot of people who are out there being like, talking about stuff like, your diet, your DNA, and you don't have to exercise to fix type 2 diabetes and be healthy. I disagree with that 100%. You need to move. you don't have to work out like I do. You can work out some other way. A lot of people love Vibe 5. It's fantastic. Like, we put everything you needed to do to be healthy movement wise into Vibe 5, and it's fantastic. I love it. You're not going to become gigantic. You're not going to get big muscle groups. You're not going to get big muscle growth from doing it. If that's your goal, you're going to have to do something else. That's why I lift. If you want to run marathons, that's also probably not geared towards your goal. But if you want to just be overall healthy, fantastic. It's great. You're going to have to, the bottom line of this is that to be healthy, you're going to have to start moving. And I talk to a lot of 30-year-olds who come in here and they're like, yeah, I want Tirzepatide or semaglutide or Ozempic or whatever, so I can start losing some weight. And I have the weight conversation with them. And they go, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. That I'm going to lose some fat. I'm like, great. What are you doing to work out? Oh, they don't work out. All right, cool. What are you doing to regulate your diet? They don't really do that either. All right, so we're not doing anything to regulate what's going into our body, and we're not doing any active motion with our body. But because we've been eating junk and drinking junk and not moving, we're fatter than we want to be. And so the idea is, well, we'll just take this shortcut, and it'll make the fat come off me, and then I'll look good and be healthy. And I explained to most of these people that you might look better, but you're not going to be healthy. And like, that's fine. So they're like, I don't care about my health because I'm 30 and whatever. I just want to look good. All right, if that's your thing, that's your thing. Like, I'm not going to argue with you, because you're in charge of your body. I would highly encourage you to think downstream a little bit and think, how am I going to be when I'm 50? Because I got a lot of life left at 30. I want to make sure everything is good for as long as possible. But again, you guys get to make your decisions how you want to make them. It's your body. It's your life. So I would caution people about using it daily as thinking using it long term when you're 30. When you're 60, especially if you have metabolic damage, metabolic function, and most of you guys do. I'm in a subset where I see a lot of people who are messed up. And so my subset of people is messed up. And so lots of them need it, but that doesn't mean that everybody needs it. So I would be a little bit cautious on it. And I would always make sure before you start doing this stuff that, have you regulated your hormones? Your hormones are how your body talks to itself. And so, you think of it in a marriage. If a husband and wife have really bad communication, the chances that they're going to have a successful, healthy, thriving marriage is low. Same thing with your body. Your body's not going to be healthy if it can't talk to itself. So make sure that it's getting the hormones that it needs, get that thing done. Then, speaking of hormones, like, people don't, because we use the calorie system, we don't tie what we eat to the hormones that food produces. I would abandon the calorie system and start looking at the macro system and think, okay, when I eat this food, what's going to happen to my body? And this is one of the things that, like, this is so important. We teach this with all of our plans. And so as we go through, the question is, all right, when you eat this food, what is it going to do? Is it going to increase insulin production, which is hormone? Is it increase glucagon production, which is hormone? Is it going to do nothing, which is what fiber does? Is it going to block absorption of nutrients, which is again what fiber does? What's it going to do? How's it going to affect ghrelin and leptin? That thought process is important. And kind of structure your diet around that, even just a little bit. And then, are you sleeping and how are you moving? Right? So those type of things. And it doesn't have to be crazy. Like, you don't have to go to the gym for 2 hours every day. You don't have to, you don't have to try to embody, some of these, influencers who are, I work out 17 hours a day. Awesome. That sounds terrible. That type of a thing. You don't have to do that. Just, are you moving regularly? Like, every day or every other day? Like, are you moving? Okay. Are you eating something that's, going to take into account all your hormone function? And are you taking some supplements for the nutrients that you're obviously missing? Most of the time, the most important ones are, B vitamins and minerals and stuff like that. So do you have that piece down at all? Like, are you even cognizant of that? And water and that, like, are you cognizant of those things? Great. You don't have to be perfect on any of them. Then to be like, all right, now that you're doing all of those things, at least a little bit, now I toss on the GLP-1, the Tirzepatide, or whatever, if you're not getting where you want to go. The long-term effect, and here's the problem, and this is one of the things that I will tell you right now, there's going to be a lot of people who blame the GLP-1s and blame tirzepatide or semaglutide or whatever for damage to the body that was not the GLP-1's not responsible for. Like a lot of this gut and liver issues that people are complaining about, not the GLP-1's fault. Are you bringing in the nutrients that are required? Are you bringing in, do you have enough methylated B6? Because that's what keeps the liver functioning. You're asking the body to burn fat, and then you're wondering why it breaks down when it's trying to burn fat without the tools required to burn fat. And people are like, oh, the GLP-1 gave me cholecystitis, or it gave me gallbladder issues. No, it didn't. It didn't. You asked the body to drive something into the lipolytic function, which has to break down fat, and then you didn't give it the chemicals that the body requires to break down fat. And so it failed. It seized. It's like running an engine without oil. Like, whose fault is that? It's yours for not putting the oil in the engine. So again, that's one of those things you've got to maintain. Do I have the right chemicals for this process to function right? So, we're going to see lots and lots of people lots of things get blamed on the GLP-1s that are the patient's fault. We're going to see tons and tons and tons of that. We see this already. People are losing all this muscle mass because they're not working out, they're not managing their hormones properly, and they're not eating. And then all of a sudden they lose all this muscle mass because they don't understand that, your body has to have sugar for your blood. And so it's eating your muscle tissues to produce the sugar because you're not consuming enough. And all of a sudden they have all this muscle mass loss. And they're like, it's the GLP-1's fault. No, it's your fault or your doctor's fault. I'll grant you that one. There's things that if you ask the body to do something, you then have to be responsible enough to be like, okay, I asked you to build this thing. Did I give you the tools to build it? I asked you to break this thing down. Did I give you the tools to break that thing down? If you didn't, your body's going to seize. It's not going to function right. Again, it's like asking an engine to produce lots of horsepower at high revolutions and then not giving it oil or not giving it adequate coolant factor or not giving it the proper airflow. It's just not going to work right. And so that's how the body works. So if you guys want to use the tirzepatide and that stuff long-term, fantastic. Just make sure that you guys have all the other stuff that you need to get the body to work right. So that's how we do it with people here. So you guys have any questions at chalmerswellness.com or drop them in the comments. Talk to you guys later. Have a fantastic day.